achieved.
You know, in all honesty, the concept of a hype train, it exists, it's out there. But calling Francis Ngannou a derailed hype train is absolute bullshit, and I'll tell you why. A hype train, as far as I'm concerned, is the type of fighter who wins 1 or 2, 3 fights against real low-level opposition, and then everybody's saying, "Let him fight for the title. Let him fight this guy. He's the number 2 guy in the division. Let him have a shot at the big guys." That's not what Francis Ngannou did. Francis Ngannou won several solid fights. He started low, beating guys like Luis Henrique and Curtis Blades, some lower-level guys or lower-level prospects, but then moving up the ranks, taking out Andrei Arlovsky, taking out Alistair Overeem in definitive fashion. I think that certainly earned him a shot at the title. Yes, he didn't beat guys like Fabricio and Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez, but the guy put a nice little resume together, showed himself very capable of competing, and he went the distance. That's the other thing. He went the distance 5 rounds with Stipe Miocic. Verdum didn't. Overeem didn't. Junior didn't. And yeah, Francis was tired and exhausted, but he went 5 rounds. The other guys didn't even get over the first. So to say his hype train was derailed? Absolutely not. He'll go back, he'll fight 2 or 3 fights, he'll make some adjustments. He's a young fighter. If he makes the appropriate adjustments, gets things tightened up, he will most likely be, I would say, what are we looking at, 2018 here? I would say by the end of 2019, we see him back in the cage fighting for the title. I thought it was a great fight. And I did have Stipe to win that fight, and the key for me in that matchup was the single leg takedown. Whether he's landing it or faking with it and forcing Ngannou to constantly defend against, it's not so much, Ngannou's very powerful, but this is a balance where, a big strong man with a lot of upper body strength and weight has to readjust once you pick that leg up off the mat, and that takes his balance away, and that makes it, whether it's a successful takedown completion or not, it's at least forcing him to work, and that was the key there. It would have been great if Stipe had knocked him out, but either way, I thought it was a really good fight. Certainly was not a hype train scenario at all, and I think Francis will be back. I look forward to Stipe's next title defense. Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson, and in this episode of the show, we are breaking down the upcoming UFC on Fox 27 event, which will take place live in Charlotte, North Carolina on January 27th, featuring 4 main card fights, including a middleweight rematch dating back to the Strikeforce days. I'll be breaking down all those fights for you, as always. On this episode of the show, all of my preliminary picks will go down at kamikazeoverdrive.net. You can check them out. I apologize, my voice is a little bit off. I'm just getting over strep throat, just about there. A couple days ago, this video was not happening. My bet packs. Now, I went 7-4 in the last show. I won a couple things. Again, I lost a couple key fights, which really hurt. But again, I had a good start to the year. So far this year, I'm 16-6 with the first 2 cards, which is a pretty good prediction rate. We hope to build on it here, and we hope to really continue to cash in and get our 2018 off to a fantastic start. We've got 4 main card fights we got to break down, so let's get to that first one. Fight number 1 takes place in the UFC's, I believe it's the welterweight division. Now, one source is showing welterweight, another source is showing lightweight. I believe it would be welterweight because these 2 individuals traditionally fight at lightweight, so why would they show it anywhere else at welterweight? So I'm going to say we're fighting at welterweight. It's Drew Dober, 18-8-0 with 1 no contest, taking on Frank the Crank Camacho, 21 wins and 5 defeats. Now, Dober, he's coming into this fight with a 3-1 record in his last 4 fights, including 2 knockout victories, 2 KO victories. He does have a submission loss to Olivier Aubin-Mercier, the great Canadian grappler. Overall, he's 4-4 in the UFC with a single no contest, and he's, as I said, he's moving, back up to welterweight, which is interesting. And we're moving up to welterweight. I think he debuted at welterweight in just a short notice fight, but still, it's very interesting to see him go up. We'll see how that holds up with his body. For Camacho, he comes with a 1-1 record inside the promotion after a split decision win over Damian Brown. He lost his debut fighting at welterweight, went back to lightweight. He fought Li Zhangliang, who was I really enjoy him. He was a good fighter out of China, enjoyable competitor. And again, Camacho, same thing, going back up to welterweight, maybe seeing it's more suitable for him to compete there with less of a cut. We're seeing that more and more out of fighters these days. Camacho, 2 inches taller than Dober. He'll have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's the younger man by a single year. Now looking at Frank the Crank first, he has 15 wins by knockout. He's got big power in his right hand, and he is absolutely willing to sit in the pocket and unleash that power. He throws a good lead left hook or jab. He will go to the body with it, and I said a hard straight right to back it up. In his successful moments in the cage, he cuts it off very well. He moves in close, lands good short punches. He'll work an uppercut. Sometimes not enough. Sometimes he has a tendency to get in close and then not let his hands go. He needs to work on that. That could come with time as he becomes more comfortable inside the cage. Now, he is a BJJ brown belt and jiu-jitsu world champion. If he gets the fight to the mat, that's certainly something he will take advantage of. He has a nice outside trip. And we saw against Damian Brown, he had a nice quick guard pass, decent takedown defense early against Brown, and he did a good job of using his elbows to punish once his opponent committed to that takedown, landing elbows to the side of the head. But also in that scenario, he was struggling to create separation, and he has given up 2 takedowns in each of his last 2 fights. and that's why he lost one and had a split decision in the other. He did have it against Damian Brown. He gave up his back early, nearly got caught in a rear naked choke. It was one of those ones where it looked like it was tight. The bell saved him. We don't know if he would have got out of it or not. Either way, it was a moment of concern for Camacho fans, and I was backing him in that fight. Additionally, his cardio is a little questionable. Against Damian Brown, didn't hold up too bad, but it's again one of those things, if you push him, he could slow down. Now, for Dober, he's quietly becoming a very well-rounded fighter. He's gone from the type of guy you look at and you go, he's durable, but he doesn't do much well, to being the guy who he's effective in almost every area. He is tough and durable. He's willing to stand and trade, and that's an issue still. Because he's willing to get hit, he's 5-5 in fights that go the distance, which tells us, he has trouble in decisions, certainly a little bit concerning. Now, he comes from a kickboxing background, but he has 6 wins by submission. His rear naked choke is preferred hold of choice of hold, whatever, you know what I mean. He likes it. He likes it a lot. I know a lot of people like the rear naked choke. He has been submitted twice in his career, not including the phantom submission that was eventually overturned. Now, what we saw is kind of his grappling coming out, or his ground game coming out party against Scott Holtzman. He landed 5 takedowns, caught a lot of people off guard in that matchup. He did a nice job of punching and then throwing level changes against Josh Berkman to put him on the mat. But when he's striking, he can be very effective there. He's very light on his feet, up on the his toes, really bouncing around. He's got a solid kicking game. He'll throw big leg kicks. He'll go to the body. He'll go throw low kicks as well. He'll throw a push kick down the middle, and he will go high. He's got a nice array of kicking techniques that he will rely on. He sets up his strikes very well, and I really like that about him. He throws a lot of fakes. Opponents looking to land power are not sure when to attack because he's constantly throwing techniques at them to throw them off. Fakes, feints to set things up. They look to engage, and he's not there, and I like that about Drew Dober's striking game. His hands, though, they're starting to produce power, and that's crucial. He didn't have a lot of power numbers early in his career. He took out Jason Gonzalez with a series of right hands, and against Berkman, it was a beautifully placed left hand that put him down. I look at this 155. Dober's a thick boy. He's pretty damn thick in the legs and in the midsection, and I think cutting to 155 pounds is going to help him out tremendously, at least in this fight against a guy who's not known for his wrestling. Dober's cardio is already pretty decent. He's willing to, and it's almost like his willingness to take shots. It could hurt him, but it also could wear Camacho down, who's unloading and attacking and not getting anywhere, and before you know it, he's tired and Dober's not. I think Dober ultimately is going to be the busier fighter here. He's potentially going to score a couple of takedowns, and that'll score some big points. Look for him to land those kicks as well. He'll be the more active fighter later, fresher as the fight goes on. I think Dober just puts on a bit of a show here, and my prediction is Drew Dober to defeat Frank Camacho by decision. Fight number 2 in the main card takes place in UFC's lightweight division. We know that for a fact, as Jordan Rinaldi, 13-5-0, takes on Gregor the Gift Gillespie with a current record of 10 wins and no defeats. Now, Gillespie is an undefeated prospect, 3-0 in the UFC, including 2 stoppage victories. Rinaldi comes in with a 1-1 record in the promotion. He's coming off a very impressive Von Flue choke victory. He is 6-1 in his last 7 outings. Now, Rinaldi physically 1 inch taller, he'll have a 1 inch reach advantage, and he's the older fighter by a year. Now, looking at Rinaldi first, a couple of things that stand out. He's got good experience in fights that go beyond the opening round. He has gone beyond the opening round. He's finished fights only once in his last 12 fights. Sorry, that's not correct. He has gone beyond round 1 just 12 times of his last 14 fights. He has a lot of experience fighting beyond that first round, which is very crucial. That being said, he is 4-3 in decisions, but he also has 4 finishes after the opening round. So he's the type of guy who wears opponents down, grinds on them, and then finishes them. But at the same time, his style may be a little bit of that, gut it out, grind it out, see if I land a few more strikes. Sometimes the judges see me as a winner, sometimes they don't. That could result in his poor decision victory. He's also a BJ Brown belt, comes from a wrestling background. When he fought Abel Trujillo in his debut, he landed a pair of takedowns. He was also taken down a trio of times. So it's kind of a back and forth affair on the ground. He won the middle round in that fight and was looking good. Ultimately screwed up and lost the final round. When he fought his last fight against Olivero, he actually got caught in a very early sub attempt. It looked pretty tight, and Olivero mistakenly held on to it, and that allowed Rinaldi to get in a position to score the Von Flue choke, and that shows a very strong depth of skill. When you realize, and we've seen OSP do it on a number of occasions, it's a very underutilized submission in mixed martial arts. I've talked to jiu-jitsu friends, they have no idea what it is, the Von Flue choke. And again, I would have to go with the fact that a lot of people in jiu-jitsu don't hold on to the guillotine when they know it's not happening. When you don't have body control, what's the point? Where a lot of guys in mixed martial arts, they hold on to it simply because they don't want to let a guy posture up and start landing shots, landing strikes, and that allows somebody to set up the Von Flue choke. That's just my opinion on the matter, but still, nonetheless, very impressive. Now, when Rinaldi was taken down by Trujillo, he's very active off his back. He was constantly rolling his hips, trying to keep Trujillo from feeling comfortable so he couldn't land his own top position offense. And that's effective. We did see him try an armbar against Oliveira as well in that fight. Didn't land it, but still, it's right there. You're threatening. Now, on the feet, he's not a super active striker, and that's worth noting. He's the type of guy who needs to find a better, more aggressive offensive push when attacking. And, his best action comes on the mat. Now for Gillespie, he's a highly decorated NCAA Division I national champion. 5 takedowns in his debut, 4 takedowns in his last appearance. He drives through his opponent's hips very well, very explosive. Connects his hands in, plants them on the canvas, does a good job of striking and then shooting to set up his takedowns. And once he's on the mat, he is not a guard. He's not going to sit in your guard and look to pound away. He cuts through opponents' guards like fucking butter. Hop right there into side control, eventually to top mount. And in his last fight, went right for that arm triangle from mount and got the squeeze, got the finish. Very impressive. Now, at times, especially pre-UFC, he has had issues where his opponents were able to avoid the early takedowns, and he didn't know what to do. He kept driving and getting stuffed, and he still won the fight. But it concerns me that he wasn't able to deviate from that original game plan. Now, as he grows as a fighter, he's only 10 fights in, that will probably become easier for him to do. Now, his striking is a work in progress, but we're seeing it progress quickly. When he took it Holbrook, he landed nice short punches to put him down. He's got very fast hands, good KO, good pop in those hands. Against Gonzalez, he willingly brawled with the guy with the longer reach and should have been able to hit him first. They were exchanging strikes. He hit him with some big shots, and Gillespie just kind of ate them. But again, he went back to his wrestling. That's where he's mixing things up nicely. He threw some strikes, boom, changed level, takedown. And that kept Gonzalez from getting settled, getting his feet planted, and throwing with more power. Gillespie has 6 first-round finishes, compared to just 4 fights that have gone beyond the opening round. So that's what I was talking about earlier with Rinaldi. He's got a lot of experience outside the opening round, so it might suit him best to drag this fight in deep waters and see if he can drown Gillespie. Ultimately, the way I look at it, Rinaldi isn't active enough on the feet to match Gillespie if he wants to brawl, and the numbers don't indicate he has the type of one-punch power that he can do damage with if he connects. Gregor should be able to take him down. And again, the biggest threat for Rinaldi is going to be him attacking off his back. I think Gillespie keeps it rolling with takedowns, top position offense, wears Rinaldi out, and ultimately my prediction is Gregor Gillespie to defeat Jordan Rinaldi by TKO. Co-main event time. We're in the UFC's featherweight divisions. The 11th ranked Dennis the Menace Bermudez, 17 wins and 7 losses, takes on Team Alpha Male's very own Andre Touchy Fili with a current record of 17 wins and 5 defeats. Now, Bermudez has won 7 fights in a row, or had won 7 fights in a row. Since then, he is 2-4 in his last 6, and he has 3 losses where he has been finished. He's been facing good opposition, but he certainly hit a wall and turned down very quickly from a position where people were talking about him as a guy who could compete for a title. He has 9 straight wins, looking at Fili, he has 9 straight wins, including his UFC debut. He has gone 13-1. He went 13-1 to start his pro career. Since then, alternated wins and losses over his last 9 fights. Has not won back-to-back fights inside the octagon. Now, physically, these are some big numbers. Fili, 5 inches taller. He'll have an 8-inch reach advantage, and he is 4 years younger than Bermudez. Those are some significant physical stats, all favoring Touchy. Now, both guys are underachievers. Fili can't win consecutive fights in the UFC and get it together. Even when he picks up big victories, he seems to, he got upset in the second fight after he beat Hawker Diaz, which I correctly predicted. He lost to Calvin Kattar in his last matchup. Kattar proving to be more than a lot of people expect him to be, which is a pleasant surprise. Bermudez, he got so far, he started losing all the big fights, couldn't get a big name under his belt, and has taken a big step back. Now, you look at Andre Fili first. The guy throws hard power strikes, and he gets good extension on those strikes when he does throw them. His kicking game's pretty solid. He'll go to the body. He'll throw some good low kicks, sharp knee strikes he'll mix in as well. He works behind a left jab fairly effectively. He used a lot of movement on the feet. He was busting up Artem Lobov in his last matchup. He stopped Gabriel Benitez with a right high kick, and he had the same technique landed on Lobov. Didn't put him out, but certainly dropped him to the mat. So again, he used a lot of different techniques to hurt guys. A lot of long range weapons. He will attack in straight lines at times, which can make him hittable. In his last fight against Lobov, he finished against Lobov, 55-55. The strikes were even. He was landing the better quality strikes, but still getting tagged enough. He did land more takedowns, which was crucial, and that helped him in that category as well. He has been finished in 3 of his 4 UFC defeats, which raised some questions about his durability, and is he too aggressive, opening himself up to taking that damage. His takedown defense has been an issue as well. Prior to the Lobov fight, he had given up 8 takedowns over his previous 3 matchups. The Hawker Diaz, when he got taken down, but he's able to get back up and had a lot of success in that fight. And Bermudez can wrestle. Let's not doubt that. He can wrestle, and he likes to wrestle, but he also likes to bang on the feet. He throws everything with power. He's very aggressive, and that can get himself into some trouble. Dennis at his best fights in close proximity where he'll strike, clinch, change levels for takedowns, shoot from the outside if he has to, but it's all about closing that distance, getting inside, and putting that strength and that power on you. When he's striking, he stands in the pocket fairly well. He'll use his movement. He'll throw a left jab to close the distance, but he tends to attack, again, very similar to Touchy-Feely, in straight lines, which opens him up to taking big shots. I like those techniques. There's a nice front kick down the middle, some chopping low kicks, really steps into them, but again, steps in, gets countered, it hurts. He has had trouble with the reach and range of longer fighters. And even against Clay Guida, he was coming up short against Guida at times and getting cracked with some counters. And his chin is a major issue. He was dropped with a jab and submitted via guillotine by Ricardo Lamas, or guillotine, depending on how you say it. I know people who say guillotine as well. Matt Grice hurt him. Jeremy Stevens knocked him out, which is a fight I correctly predicted. KZ, Korean Zombie, stopped him as well. I also got that one right. You know, and in fights, especially against Korean Zombie, he got stunned and backed off because he got cracked with some power. He was struggling to close off, close the cage, close off on the cage, and eventually got finished with an uppercut in that matchup. He leaves his chin out there. He overextends when he's attacking. Guida was routinely cracking with the right hand. He hangs his left hand a little bit low, which opens up that right hand shot as well, and leaves him vulnerable in a lot of spots. Now, if he does wrestle, he's got a very explosive shot, strong top position. He'll ride and strike in the mat. He exhausted and wore out a very good wrestler in Tatsuya Kawajiri in one of his more high-profile victories. And that could be crucial here if he can get Fili in the mat with consistency. I think that's probably Bermudez' path to victory. Now, Fili has a reach advantage, and that's significant. And he needs to fight long. He needs to avoid letting Bermudez get in with regularity to wrestle and strike. And that chin of Bermudez is a major problem because as he tries to close, look for Fili to look for a counter strike. You look at the guys Bermudez has beat: Kawajiri, Hani Jason, Clay Guida, Matt Grice, Jimmy Hedis. I know I've left a couple guys out, Max Holloway being one of them. I'll tell you why. These guys are either stout grapplers or guys who just aren't known for their explosive striking skills. You look at the guys he lost to: Darren Elkins, Korean Zombie, Jeremy Stevens, Ricardo Lamas, and the split decision winning against Max Holloway that many people felt he lost. These guys are longer, rangier fighters. I know Elkins is more of a grappler and a grinder, but he's still a big, tall guy who can fight long if he wants to. These are the type of guys. I got the Elkins win correct over Bermudez as well, if you don't remember. These are the type of guys who can hurt Bermudez before he gets to them, and that's crucial. And I think Andre Fili is going to find that as well. And this will be the first time he's won back-to-back fights in the UFC. I think Fili will hurt him. He's certainly going to outpoint him using that reach. As long as he can stay off his back, he might not be able to finish him. Maybe he does, but my prediction is Andre Fili to defeat Dennis Bermudez by decision. Now, in the main event of the evening, we move to the UFC's middleweight division. As a third-ranked fighter in the division, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, 24 wins, 5 losses, and 1 no contest, takes on the 8th-ranked Derek Brunson, currently holding a record of 18 wins and 5 defeats. Now, this is a rematch from a 2012 Strikeforce card in which Jacare knocked out Brunson KO cold in 41 seconds. And, a lot of people talked about seeing Jacare and Rockhold have a rematch. This is, one we're getting instead. Either way, it could be very interesting. Souza, he's the type of fighter who's been long deserving of a title shot. He had 8 wins in a row between Strikeforce and the UFC. He lost that split decision against Yoel Romero. He picked up 2 wins after that, and a lot of people felt, this guy needs an opportunity to fight the title, and then boom, he goes and gets TKO'd in the second round by Robert Whittaker, and Whittaker goes on to be now named the champion. Now, Whittaker, hopefully, everything works out for him. He's in physical trouble dealing with a nasty staph infection. But either way, has that loss put Souza in a position he's not going to be able to recover from? Has time passed him by? He's 38, almost 39 years old, people. Derek Brunson, 7-1 to start his UFC run. Then he had a come from behind loss against Yoel Romero in a fight he was winning and then choked late, gassed out, and Romero stopped him. Then he had his losses to Whittaker and the questionable one against Anderson Silva, but since then, back-to-back knockouts of Daniel Kelly and Lyoto Machida. He feels he's close to a title shot. I would say if he stops Jacare, that puts him right on the cusp, especially with some questions as to who's fighting for the title next. Now, physically, both guys are 6'1", 5-inch reach advantage for Brunson. He is also 5 years younger. Now, since their first encounter, Brunson's gone 9-3, Jacare's gone 8-2. Statistically, he said 41-second knockout for Souza. He landed significantly 5 big strikes. That was it. Brunson landed nothing of significance in that matchup. Now, when you look at how the actual fight played out, neither fighter landed anything early, both winging punches and moving forward, making no contact. Brunson then pushed forward for a second attack, and he gets cracked with a counter right hand. And then gets hit with a left hand around as well. He was ultimately dropped and finished with some ground and pound after he tried to get up. 41 seconds, boom, boom, thank you, ma'am. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, out of there. So a couple questions coming off that fight, which doesn't give us a lot to break down, especially considering it was 6 years ago. Is Jacare past his prime? He is 38, almost 39 years old, as I already mentioned. He's coming off a knockout loss. And is Brunson in a better physical position? Is he in his physical prime compared to Jacare? You know, he's what, 33? So yeah, I would say he's pretty much in his physical prime at this point. He's got less mileage on his body as well, as far as the mixed martial arts community is concerned. Secondly, who has improved or adapted more since their last fight? Jacare's striking has got better, no denying it. He's a world-class ground fighter, BJJ black belt, very well respected, very dangerous. That hasn't changed. But I would say Brunson's become a more well-rounded fighter, more dangerous fighter. Still has some flaws, but he's more dangerous. Those flaws are producing, the risk he takes to those flaws are producing more results. Now, you look at Brunson, he's got two modes. Either he's knocking guys out or he's wrestling them and clinching them and stalling them out. His big left hand is that big weapon he likes to throw. He's got significant power in it. He can land it in close range or he can land it from distance. But he has a tendency when he's fighting from distance to overextend. That opens up, and that's kind of what happened to him when he lost to Jacare in the first place. Additionally, when he has two modes, but that one mode has two levels of success. That wild, aggressive brawler, it took out Sam Alvey. It worked fantastic. He hurt him, he finished him. But the opposite happened against Robert Whittaker. He hurt him, he pushed him, he was aggressive, but then he faded, got hurt himself, and got finished. So, it's one of those things where it's like either it works or it doesn't. It's pretty cut and dry, and we see two examples of it there. Now, have we seen him evolve as a fighter and do some different things? Quite possibly, yes. When he fought both Daniel Kelly and Lyoto Machida, he was much more patient, picking his shots, picking his spots, not opening himself up, not exposing himself to being counterattacked, and then boom, he would burst forward, land a couple strikes, and get out of there. And ultimately, that eventually led to him scoring the knockout. Now, Machida, very well-known counter striker, little getting on in age, a little bit behind his prime, was landing some counter strikes. Brunson's chin was landing up, it was up, but Machida wasn't able to score that big one and put him down. Ultimately, when Machida kind of moved in an exchange, it was a left hook that caught Machida as he came in, some ground and pound to put him down for the finish. And, that's what Brunson's looking for. He's looking for that home run shot that puts you away. If not, he's going to try and wrestle you, grapple you, and grind you down that way. Now, for Jacare, we all know what he does on the mat. He's exceptionally good on the mat, but you have to wonder if Brunson's wrestling skills could counter it, and these two guys basically say, we're going to strike it out, we're not going to worry about going to the ground. I think Jacare at some point tries to take him down because that's where his bread and butter is. And if he does, look for him trying to use those wild strikes instead of his takedowns. He gets wild, he flails, and then he launches himself forward trying to get out of that double leg. That could be difficult, and he had minimal success against Brunson. He had a couple very unique attempts. He tried a very cool rolling technique that, my hat's off, or a little golf applause to Whittaker, who was able to finish that roll on top and then boom, pop out of there very quickly. Very impressive. As far as the front kick to the body, when he's striking, he's got a nice front kick to the body. He'll throw a good left jab, lead left hook. He will walk forward with hooks as well. He'll throw some nice front kicks to the body, a lead left jab, a lead left hook as well. He will walk forward behind his hooks, but again, he opens himself up when he strikes. Again, he will try and clinch up and create some scrambles and look to get that fight to the ground if possible. But ultimately, he was having a lot of trouble with the speed of Whittaker, both offensively and defensively. Whittaker caught him moving in with a left jab and a fast right hand behind him, hurt him. He then had some big head kicks that eventually put him down and led to the ground and pound finish. And ultimately, if Jacare can't score the takedown in this fight, he isn't the same fighter if he's forced to strike. Brunson is faster, he hits harder, and his aggression, and he's got that. I think the aggression is going to keep Jacare guessing and back him up. I guess Jacare, I think, unfortunately, is past his prime, and ultimately my prediction is Derek Brunson to defeat Jacare Souza by knockout. So those are my four main card predictions for UFC, the upcoming UFC on Fox event, which will take place in Charlotte, North Carolina. As always, all of my preliminary picks will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net, so make sure you cruise by there and check them out. I'm going to hopefully have another solid event and keep 2018 rolling. Yes, the bet packs will be for sale. Again, you can $15 a pop. I heard someone is charging $1,000 for their two main event bets last weekend. Like, holy fuck, people, seriously, and they got them both wrong apparently. Either way, $15 to get a look at all my information for my cards. Again, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I lose all the time. I'm wrong on a lot of things, but I put the time and effort in. And if you're gonna bet your money, you might as well get as much insight as you possibly can. Agree or disagree with me. I know people who buy my stuff and fade me, which is absolutely fine. If that's working for you, keep it going. You're welcome. But yeah, or you can subscribe and save yourself a chunk of cash. Follow me on Twitter at ko_predictions.com. And Facebook, all the other jazz. I do that as well, so make sure you check that out. And thank you as always for tuning in and listening. You know who you are. I'm talking directly to you. Thanks. Hi.